Hey, guess what? Teardown's finally out. In early access. This might be a little too early to do a review, but I think there's already plenty to talk about here, so let's just jump right in. Don't worry, I'll let you see it. In one sentence, Teardown is a voxel-based destruction engine. We've been seeing bits and pieces of it over its development, showing off the fancy destruction, lighting, and effects. If you've never heard the word voxel before, a voxel is a 3D pixel. It's usually a lot more efficient to handle stuff with voxels instead of polygons, and they make sense as a minimal unit of scale for a game engine. In real life, we can go all the way down to the subatomic level, but that's completely pointless for a game engine. At least for today's computers. Maybe in a few hundred years we'll have computers that can simulate entire universes at the atomic level, but for now, voxels are a pretty good solution. The other thing voxels simplify is ray tracing calculations. There's a good reason that a lot of people's first exposure to RTX screenshots was from Minecraft. For those out of the loop, ray tracing is mathematically calculating, or tracing, individual rays of light. It's kind of all the rage today since it makes a bunch of progress in moving computer-generated media out of the uncanny valley. We no longer have to guess with individual effects like volumetric shadows, ambient occlusion, and screen space reflections. Ray tracing naturally handles all of it. Diffuse lighting, context shadows, surface reflections, light rays streaming in through a grating, the huge flash of light from an explosion. It all looks fucking amazing. I really want to say the game looks realistic, but I've honestly just never played a game with ray tracing before, so I'll avoid saying realistic in case I am just biased. There's also some really nice volumetric particle effects. Fire and smoke behave realistically, your demolition will kick up a bunch of dust, cars spit out exhaust fumes, and they all physically interact with the environment. Not to mention, the fire extinguisher has its own foamy particles that are just so fun to play with. On top of the tech, they absolutely knocked it out of the park with the art. From a distance, objects look pretty much lifelike, but up close, the voxel models are really cartoony and gamey. It looks great, and I have no idea how they were able to strike that balance. The environments and models all use color really well too. It looks grounded, but it also isn't afraid to pop with some good saturation. Seriously, this game looks really good. YouTube is definitely keeping you from seeing the full glory, but I really tried to up the quality as much as possible, because this game deserves it. Seriously, the sheer file size of my footage almost brings Vegas to its knees. I'm not sure if it's because of the engine, the art direction, or even just the voxels, but Villa Gordon is like one of those levels that I had a strong emotional reaction to, like right up there with Hitman's Hokkaido. These calm and pretty levels are all complemented by a very mellow synth soundtrack. The gameplay, and we're almost there, don't worry, isn't really high octane enough to demand anything more. As for the game sounds, they did a really good job there too. Your tools have weighty and punchy sounds consistent with their impact, and every piece of rubble sounds different based on its weight and material consistency. It all comes together when you're smashing shit, and it is just really satisfying. Now so far, we're seeing a really competently produced game, despite this crazy experimental engine that could have easily interfered with that production time. It's been in development for about 2 years, but it only took about 1 year to get what you're seeing now. They spent nearly a full year just figuring out the gameplay. As it turns out, a game about just destroying shit gets old. Like, instantly. It's like, oh yay, you sure did destroy that building, and obliterated your PC in the process. It also took way too long and absolutely didn't live up to whatever expectations you had. Since every review I've done has been seen by their respective developers, I want to be clear. It's not Teardown's destruction that's boring, but destruction itself. I got tired of it after loading up one level and blowing it up, but I gotta give the devs credit. It takes a lot to put a ton of work into a simulation like this and then realize, this actually kind of sucks on its own. What they've settled on for gameplay is what I'm gonna call the heist system. Each level has multiple objectives strewn throughout. They're all pretty easy to reach, especially with the tools you're given, but reaching them isn't the hard part. Most of the objectives are attached to an alarm. If you move one too far from its alarm, or break too much of the wall it's attached to, it'll go off, and from there you've got 60 seconds to grab everything else and then make your escape. This means levels naturally play out in 2 phases. In the beginning of a level, you walk around, explore, case your objectives, and look for goodies. Most of them are just out there, but I was surprised to find that this game actually has secrets. If you're paying attention, you might notice that there's a little bit too much space between two sides of a wall, or you just blunder into one like I did. When you actually start looking at the objectives, you'll find that most alarms aren't really going anywhere, but some are set up in a way that gives you some control over their location.
I don't understand what's going on here.
As you level up from level 1 Thug to level 100 Boss, you also unlock a variety of tools. They're definitely going to add more over time, but right now you've got the sledgehammer, a blowtorch for cutting metal and setting fire, 2 guns, multiple types of explosives, and wooden planks. The planks are used to make platforms, but they also function just fine as ropes.
Look, Gordon, ropes!
I have no idea why, but I mean, hey, I appreciate the extra functionality. I'll take it. These tools empower you to engage in precise and purposeful demolition rather than just completely leveling the place. This demolition is the core of the game, and it is damn fun. Having this much control over the environment is really powerful, and you feel like you've opened your third eye when you figure something out. Like, oh no, I have to go all the way up there? Wait, no I don't. Wait, I can bring the tower to me! Your creativity as a player is always rewarded, not to mention, the entire point of the game, the voxel-based destruction engine, is nothing short of amazing. It's not really something I can showcase in a single clip, since the important part is the sheer scale of the system and how much freedom it gives you as a player. There are multiple types of materials, which all have different properties and require different tools to get around. Wood can be destroyed with a hammer or set on fire, metal bars can be cut with a blowtorch, and stone needs some kind of firepower to punch through. It is so satisfying to smash shit with a hammer or blow holes through solid brick with a shotgun. Seriously, I still haven't gotten tired of using a gun instead of my hands to open up doors. Why stop there? I have a fucking shotgun. Everything is a door. They just need a special key. You also get an infinite can of spray paint. Obviously, the first thing I'm going to do is draw a dick, but I really love that they give you a planning tool like this. I use the spray paint to write notes for myself on the map, to draw out the path I plan to take, or to draw out crucial spots to stand or shoot. You've also got a quick save to help with risky or experimental demolitions, and of course for when it's finally go time. This is when the game really comes together. Everything you've done up to this point was to prepare for this 1-minute run. These moments are really enjoyable. Any failure of execution was a failure executing your plan. You didn't have to keep aggressively hitting quick load every time you fucked up, since you can just make your plan better. Execution errors are always really annoying in video games, but that's always execution of actions that someone else came up with. Teardown avoids this annoyance by putting everything into your hands. Fucked up a jump, you can put down planks to make it easier. Keep crashing a car, you can run through and destroy most of its obstacles. The destruction system puts the world itself under your control. You just need to make the most of it. Games with destruction systems generally fail to make that destruction a core part of the gameplay. Shooters like Red Faction just use destruction as a side element to the shooting, and games like Minecraft are more about creation, with destruction as a tool that leads to more creation. With games like Teardown, Rainbow Six Siege, and Deep Rock, I think we're finally starting to see how destruction itself can be a core gameplay element. In all three, you use the tools at your disposal in order to control the environment to achieve your goal. They reward you for using your brain rather than just pure mechanical skill, and I fucking love using my brain. It's right up there with not using my brain. Ultimately, I think it's really impressive to see real gameplay come from what used to just be engine programmers showing off, but Teardown still has its fair share of issues. Since the game basically just hit early access, this'll just be a speed round. Anything I waste time on here could easily be fixed if you're watching this in like a year. The physics engine doesn't simulate weight or stress, so stuff can just hang on by a thread. You can exploit that, but it's still kind of annoying. Pieces of a building can be held in place by fucking air molecules or something. This happens a lot when you're trying to completely destroy something. I think it has to do with physics objects, but The fire extinguisher isn't as effective as its very pretty volumetric particle effect implies. I know I said this is a lightning round, but it's really pretty to look at, and I just kind of wanted to let it play out. Pipe bombs have a really awkward throwing arc. It starts from the view model, so sometimes you can just accidentally roll it under your own feet and slip over it like a banana peel. Large-scale destruction, you know half the point of the game, will tank your frame rate, and sometimes it's caused by weird shit like a tree falling over or beaching a large boat. Due to the nature of the voxels, inclines kind of suck to drive over and can get you completely stuck if you're driving something low to the ground. I think it needs some kind of stair clipping or something. Movement in general is just kind of floaty. It's satisfying to run around, but sometimes you can get stuck or just kind of slip off an edge. Ammo upgrades mean that the shotgun outclasses the sledgehammer in the late game, and the sledge doesn't have any upgrades to help it keep pace. The 60-second timer feels arbitrary, and the developers didn't even check to make sure fine arts was possible before shipping it, so I'm not confident that they have a strong handle on the difficulty tuning for their game. I mean, I don't blame them at all though. That's just the drawback of giving the player so much freedom. It's a lot harder to control or predict them when you're designing the challenge. The helicopter was cool in the escape scene, but it was really annoying in the actual level. I appreciate the dynamic timer instead of a hard timer, but it's the only obstacle in the game that you can't really plan ahead for, and it will actively interfere with your own plans by destroying the environment. I mean, yes, you do have to plan around not being in the open, but you just kind of end up winging it instead of really changing up your plan. I do think it was a good idea to use airborne enemies, since any grounded enemies would just get stuck on the terrain, like, instantly. The alarms just kind of trigger when they feel like it. When they're placed on something you can move, it feels like they have a weight limit for what the panel is attached to, and if that piece goes under the weight limit, the alarm goes off. Like here, the alarm was built into a small box that you can kind of drag. I thought I was being clever by cutting the box in half to make it easier to move it, but it just goes off when you destroy too much. Whether I destroyed the box or left it intact, I was going to put it in the exact same spot, so it wasn't an obstacle I had to plan around, it was just an engine quirk that made it really annoying to do what the game pretty much expected me to. This last one I'm going to get into kind of deep since I think it needs a rework. Voxel-based driving fucking sucks. Don't get me wrong, it is really impressive on a technical level. Cars drive based on traction between the tires and the ground, with different materials giving better traction, and the traction itself is influenced by how much weight is pressing down on the tires. The issue with the cars being so realistic is that the world itself is not realistic. You get completely fucked over by inclines, ramps, and even a tiny bit of debris. Pop quiz. What am I stuck on here? It's that one voxel thick layer of carpet. Destroy that and you're good to go. Whether it's due to randomness or the sheer complexity of the driving system, cars all have this element of inconsistency to them that is just so fucking infuriating. Like seriously, this car is here, and this staircase is designed to be a ramp straight into the second floor. I'm able to make that jump, but it just seems completely random. I am doing the exact same thing every time, just holding W, but sometimes you get enough speed to make it perfectly. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you randomly crash into the ramp. Sometimes you come out the other end just fine. Sometimes you come out lopsided and flip over, and I have no idea why. This inconsistency flies in the face of every other part of this game. If you don't use cars, you'll know when your route is bad or when you just messed up. But if your route is car heavy, which the huge layout of the Villa Gordon demands, every time you use a car feels like a dice roll of whether or not it will work or just inexplicably collide with nothing. It really feels like it's hampering my creativity, since creative and out there solutions are the ones that have the least consistency, even when my execution is identical every single time. I went into this issue instead of making it part of the lightning round because I feel like it unearths a core flaw with the gameplay. Planning and making a route is fun. Trying to optimize your execution to shave off fractions of a second at a time is infuriating. You can probably tell I don't enjoy speedrunning or even really understand why people do it, but if you've ever seen a speedrunner like rage and destroy their computer, that's pretty much the experience of playing really hard levels. You start a run, some bullshit happens, you reset, and then you repeat until you either get it or you rage quit. I'm fucking done. The thing is, this issue only crops up in the really hard levels like fine arts and insurance fraud. If you make the cars less fucking annoying, this issue wouldn't be nearly as bad, but I think we're seeing what the limit should be in terms of difficulty. Maybe even scale it back a little. Like, 5 extra seconds for fine arts would have saved me hours of pain. Because at that point, it's not a puzzle anymore. I've seen other people do the exact same thing on YouTube. I know what to do, I just have to grind runs until I get it. I may have wasted a bit too much time here, but I really wanted to hammer home that Teardown's strength is the immense freedom you get from the way the destruction simulation works. Once it stops being a spatial puzzle game, the system just starts working against you. The developers have been actively seeking feedback and suggestions, so here's me throwing my hat into the pile. You need a good way to clean up rubble, like a vacuum cleaner or some kind of acid spray. As it stands, if you need an area clean, you have to sit there and move every single piece by hand. Not to mention, large piles of rubble will awaken every time they're disturbed and take your frame rate straight to the depths of hell with them. It might work as either an upgrade or just a basic feature of the sledgehammer, since it gets completely outclassed by the shotgun in the late game, and part of that is because the shotgun cleans up its own rubble. It's seriously just the best. I love it. I think there should be some more mobility options. Your only movement at the moment is just walking and jumping. I was really missing having like a sprint function or something. Not because I thought I was slow, but just so I could have something to do instead of just holding W. That's why you see me bunny hopping all over the place. It doesn't make you go any faster, I just wanted something to do. I respect that planks are limited, so unlimited options like parkour would be a little excessive, but I think explosive jumping would be nice to experiment with. I found an exploit that lets you go so fast you can clip through walls, but Fine Arts was still really hard, so I don't think out there mobility options like blast jumping would be that extreme. As for actual mobility tools, I'd love to see deployable stuff that can help you out. Maybe ladders or jump pads to help you gain verticality, ropes to swing from, or like some limited spray paint that lets you stick to walls or wall run. I appreciate that planks are versatile enough to achieve almost all of that anyway, but I find myself solving most problems with just planks and shotguns. Some people have suggested loadouts since managing all your tools is kind of cumbersome, but I think that's a big mistake. The inventory being cumbersome is a UI issue. You can experiment with a few different solutions, but I think a spiral menu is the way to go. Apart from additions to the gameplay like that, this game needs workshop support for player-made levels. Multiplayer and co-op would be really fun, but I'm not sure how much that'd be worth the developer's time. I'd definitely settle for a janky multiplayer mod. And finally, I'm gonna let myself have one truly out there suggestion. I think it'd be really fucking hilarious to have something to make tunnels, like the drills from Deep Rock. Ultimately, this is a fucking awesome game. I've been waiting a while to get my hands on it for the destruction alone, but I was really excited to see that Teardown is way more than just a gimmick. The developers clearly understand what they're working with on a gameplay level, and I'm really excited to see how the game will change during early access. It took me about 10 hours to beat all the missions with most of the secondary objectives, so if all they do is add more levels and missions, this could easily be a 20 to 50 hour game. If your computer can handle it, I'd say there's already enough content to warrant checking out. As always, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for next time when we perform some high-caliber historical revisionism. Unless I get distracted again, like with this video. What is that fucking noise? Are people doing more fucking lawn work? I'm gonna fucking have an aneurysm. There's an entire fucking squad of people doing yard work across the street, so I guess I'm gonna do this fucking later. God damn it. Oh, I guess they're done. I guess it is a lot more efficient to do lawn work with a whole fucking brigade of people instead of just one, like, teenager. I'm seriously paranoid about that fucking lawnmower. Is that a plane? Okay. There we go, okay. Say like I'm not in this video, it sucks.
I already said that.
I didn't have it on recording.
Okay. I'm not in this video, it sucks.
That sucked. Your delivery sucked. Be more natural.
I'm not gonna be in this video, so it's not worth watching.
That was a little better. I guess I'll use that.